Is that your grandparents?
Yeah.
Yes.
Millard and Martha Elliott.
Yeah.
Millard Porter. Miller is Alex, your uncle, Alex's son. So I've got a few stories about Millard. We just never hear a lot of stories about Millard because he died kind of. How old was he?
Yeah, about 40-some.
They
40
said the rock that hit him in the head wasn't much bigger than that,
Oh, really?
but it just hit him in the right place.
Oh,
Yeah, but you can drive. Mines were tall.
were they?
They drove trucks back in them, dump trucks and everything.
Where was that now?
Down at
Yeah.
Law.
Don't lie.
So, Dixie, you said you were at Millard's funeral.
Yeah.
Was it here?
Yeah, he's buried right up here.
Yeah. So was the funeral here at the old church?
He said they were just buried on. There hadn't been too many died, just the real old people. And he was about the first one that was buried on the other side of the church. It said that in there. He was the first ones, and his family is all on that side of the church.
Okay. What were you going to say a minute ago? I'm sorry.
Well, my aunt has been dead for quite a few years, but I go and talk to her a lot about it, and she said they were Elliott's and they moved up there, but they moved back here, and that's where Elliott County got their name because they moved out there, and they lived out there, and they named that county after her family.
Well, I got a couple more little stories about Millard. This story came from Oscar Porter, Sam's son. Did you guys know Oscar? Oscar had kind of written his a couple pages of his life story or whatever. He says, I guess the first thing I can remember when I was about 3.5 years old, my mother had taken me to see Aunt Martha Porter. So that would be Martha right here. Yeah. Uncle Millard's wife. They lived up on Tick Ridge at Olive Hill. But I can only remember one little instance that happened on that trip that summer. My aunt was laying in bed. I was so small she couldn't see me standing by the bed, so she asked Mom to stand me up in a chair so she could see me. And I can remember what she said, bless his little heart, he looks so much like Paul. And Paul's your dad, right?
Yeah.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Which was her little boy, who was about 2 or 3 years older than me. And that was the summer before the bad winter of 1918. Well, what he's describing here, that must have been right before she passed away.
Yeah.
Did she die in May of 1918? He's saying summer of 1918, so it must have been the beginning of the summer.
Now later on, my grandfather married Porter.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that in a second.
Well, you don't have to. We know.
Well, no, you know a lot more about it than I do. Yeah, I'll get to that here in just a second. Tell us
So
about
that
that.
made Charlie Millard and Charlie Millard and Everett all married sisters. Porter's married Porter.
Yeah. Okay. Because Millard's second wife is the Porter, and that's the sister to Dixie's mom, right?
Yeah.
That's Dixie's aunt, Rebecca Porter, his second wife. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I bet there was never another family. I wonder why this up there, but they didn't believe it. 3 brothers married 3 sisters.
Yeah.
She was Uncle Avery.
Two of my mother's brothers, they married 2 sisters.
Really?
And Millard's kid, all but my dad, married into the same family, the Waddell family.
Was her mother Murray? Was her mother's name Murray?
Yeah.
Becky, his second wife, was your mother's sister. Right.
Yeah, Uncle Millard.
My dad and his sibling, she would milk the cow, my aunt told me, and she would go to bed after she milked the cow, and she would hold the bucket of milk in her hand. So my Aunt Ruth, which fed the family, like cooked them, she went through and took the bucket of milk and dipped it over her head. She said, you want it there, you can have it.
Well, I got a story about that second wife, Rebecca. Was she married before, or was that her first marriage?
I guess that was her first marriage.
Well, she was in her. She was like 37 when they got married, so she hadn't been married before.
She had 2 kids, but it was by Grandpa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you know that Millard and her filed for divorce?
I wouldn't blame him.
But they didn't go through with it.
Oh. She also burnt my dad real bad.
Oh,
They got a kid buried over there.
do they? Put back here. He filed for divorce in October of 19. They were married in December of 18. So yeah, less than a year. But less than a year, he filed for divorce. He claimed that she'd left him 5 or 6 times. He says he had 4 children from his previous marriage. He says they were 37 when she was 37 when they got married. Millard said that she left for 3 months this spring and went to her father's house in Elliott County. And she just left again. So as far as he knows, there's no chance of them getting back together. He wants a divorce. No prospects of them having any children. But but then exactly 6 months later, they had a baby. I found this about Millard. It was in the newspaper, 1926. They kind of put the neighborhood, what everybody's doing in the neighborhood, the gossip section. And it said, Ernest and Millard Porter left on Monday for West Virginia, where they motored. Who was he going to see in West Virginia?
Sit over there.
They used to go up on mine coal, but I don't know whether they're up there doing that or not.
Did Millard ever work over there?
Not that I know of.
Huh.
But they could have.
When was that?
1926, and he died in 29.
Wonder if that's when Papa was in Logan.
Oh.
Because that was before they.
Not a lot.
Well, yeah, your mom,
your
your grandma.
Her
Yeah.
sister.
I
Yeah.
think
29,
Alec
they got married.
died pretty close to him.
Yeah.
I think he was in West
before him,
Virginia before they got married, weren't
I
they?
think it's a place
Yeah.
called Acoville. Real tiny Acoville.
Mothers.
Near Grayholm. Very tiny
Oh,
little
really?
town.
I've heard of him.
It's